Good day guys, Austin here, and in this one today, it's time for a bit of Emunation, which means that I'm covering everything to do with emulation, front ends, gaming, technology, pretty much anything that, well, I can think of, to be honest. But in this one, this week, it's a good one. We've got the old favourites such as Cemu, Citra, we've even got a bit of Pokemon sneaking in here. We've got everything that's been floating my boat all week and what is about to arrive. So I'm not going to waffle on forever. This week, we're just going to get stuck straight in to a bit of Cemu. Right, so as normal then, I've been getting in touch with Cemu and testing out a whole load more games. Now, I went back to the virtual console kind of stuff, so these are the retro kind of games. I've seen how they perform on the, well, emulator of a next-gen system. It's a bit of Inception going on because I'm kind of emulating a game through a modern-day console, through a a modern emulator on a PC. Crazy. Anyway, this is, as you can see, F-Zero, and it's hit and miss with a lot of the games. Some of them don't load, some of them load and work very well, some of them have a lot of problems with them. As you can see, Super Nintendo's kind of emulates quite well, to be honest, if the games do work. Nintendo, NES, the Nintendo Entertainment System, for some reason it's getting huge lags. Now, when I'm saying lags, the frames per second counter is up to maximum and it doesn't fluctuate at all. Yet for some reason it only plays up to 50% of the actual frame rate, or the speed of the game, should I say. So I don't know how it's working, whether the emulator is telling it to run the wrong speed or if it's just glitching out. But yeah, one thing I would say is quite a lot of the N64 and Super Nintendo games are working. Now, you have to put the texture stuff on some games to maximum. If you don't, you get this kind of artifacts going on. As you can see, quite a lot of the more prominent titles are working quite well. And if you do get this kind of artifacts, the only thing that you need to do really is go into the menu and then change the texture caching to, as you can see, maximum, and you get that kind of effect. So you can go on your way and play the game to its full visual glory. Something else you can do as well is go into the actual virtual console menus. Now, depending on what system you're emulating or running, it gives you various different features for that game. For example, you can have a look at the manuals for that game. You can do save states, so instead of actually saving inside the game, you can actually save the game up to that point. So as soon as you start playing that game again, you can just pick up exactly in mid-air however you saved it. Also, you can change the format of the screens for some of the systems, such as Game Boy Advance. You can give it screen smoothing, you can give it different orientations, you can put it widescreen, all depends on the system. But again, this is all hit and miss, guys, depending on what system and what game you're playing. You just got to test them out and see what games work. Okay, I also tried a few of the more modern titles, and this is obviously Deus Ex or Deus Ex, depending on how you say it. As you can see, I can get it to run, but my god, does it glitch. It's like a horror film glitch. Look at the state of her. She got gavians and everything everywhere. But some of the games that I did get working quite well, up to a certain kind of standard, is Batman Arkham City. Now, it's hit and miss with this. Again, some of the scenes are running full speed. I think it's got something to do with the lighting effects. Now, as you can see, I'm smashing my way through everybody. The frames per second hardly fluctuate at all. The actual slowdowns is part of the game, I believe, in the fighting sequences of that stage. But the FMVs all working perfectly, the environment perfectly. Yeah, for some reason, on certain stages, I do get huge slowdowns in frames per second, and it does bring the speed down to a almost unplayable state like this. I'm not sure if that's the lighting effect in the background, but or all the amount of people that's in there. I would have thought that the fighting scene would have been more demanding, but no. I suppose it depends on how the emulator interprets the actual gameplay and what kind of stress it puts it under. But yeah, it's good to actually get this game working. The more games that actually boot, the more progression I think we can make, because once they become bootable, then we can start working more in terms of speed, compatibility, get rid of those glitches, and it, just brings another game for me to test, to be honest. And I actually love the Batman series, even though I do think that they're killing it off a little bit. And of course, SpongeBob works perfectly. The sound is perfect. The gameplay is perfect. It's a fully working game, this one. Full speed across the board, even on my lower end systems. Something to go back on there as well. When we're looking at the virtual console kind of stuff, the sound, I don't think I mentioned that. The sound is terrible. For some reason, it will not emulate any sound at all on all the games that I tested if it's anything other than Game Boy Advance. For some reason, it plays Game Boy Advance, but it's very slow when it emulates that system. So that is Cemu, to be honest. That is everything put in there, and I think I've more or less brought you up to speed on this. For more information about, well, how this is doing, take a look at my most recent videos. I've done a load on Cemu lately. We need to get this off topic now. Until there's a new release, I'll probably ditch Cemu and start working on some other emulators to bring you guys up to speed. Other than that, then in the Dolphin world, we've got the Bluetooth pass-through. Now, we talked about this before. This is unbelievable compatibility with Wiimotes to your, well, Wii games, to be honest. And, yeah, I cannot believe they managed to do it. Not to this kind of level, anyway. Of course, we've had Wiimotes working for a long time on Dolphin, but not to this kind of compatibility and level of, well, accuracy, to be honest, because that's what it's added a hell of a lot, accuracy. Anyway, one of the major players in the, I don't know, Wiimote market for bringing it to the PC was Mayflash Dolphin Bar. Now, Mayflash have announced that, yes, they will be updating their Dolphin Bars. Now, of course, when you buy your Dolphin Bar, it comes with a little disc, and you can actually flash your firmware inside there to update it to the most current settings. As of yet, it's not been released, but people have been contacting them, and they have given official statements saying that it will be released. Now, of course, they could just be saying that, but I don't know. I like to think positive about all this, so please, Mayflash, make that happen. Next out the bag, then, we have got Citra, the 3DS emulator, and we all know that this is pretty damn good. Let's face it, over the last couple of months, we've seen a hell of a lot of compatibility, speed, and the introduction of all kinds of features to this emulator. A quick recap, we saw the introduction of CPU JIT, which meant that the speed up gave us the huge frame rate increases, which meant that games were now pretty much playable across the board. Of course, there is some problematic games out there, but speed in general increased exponentially. I can't even say that word. It increased a great deal, let's say that one. And it was an awesome introduction to the emulator in general. Elsewhere, we see the scaled resolution, which meant that not only we were getting the speed, but we were also getting the detail of graphics. No longer was our little tiny 1-inch screen blown up to our 55-inch TVs looking all pixelated and jagged. In other words, it looked beautiful, and that was an awesome addition. Then in the last couple of weeks, we've seen the other version of scaling, and in terms of the textures this time. So no longer were them 2D kind of textures, all messy and jaggy and pixelated, but they were seeing the BRZ texture scaled resolution, which meant that things were more rounded, and, well, it just makes it look all beautiful. So that's the kind of stuff that we've seen in the past, well, couple of months, to be honest. And, well, let's just say Pokemon has arrived, because the world is going crazy right now, because, of course, everybody knows that Pokemon is due out on the 18th of this month. However, it was leaked onto the internet, the most recent version of this game, which is Sun and Moon. Now, in the background, you'll see my demo gameplay, because I don't want to get in any trouble at all, and Nintendo are striking people down with ban hammers everywhere, because their game was leaked. The game that was supposed to be released on the 18th is now on the internet and floating around in everybody's hand. I'm not going to link it, I'm not going to share it, please don't ask, because I'm not going to tell you. This is available for everybody, but you've got to look around in some trustworthy places. Now, I would say this has got nothing to do, first off, with the Citra people at all. So please do not tar them with the same brush. They've got nothing to do with it. They have made a perfectly legal and awesome emulator for us all to enjoy our backups of games on our PCs. What this does enable, and what is getting into the news over here in the UK, is the fact that now you can use this emulator to play your Pokemon backups, including the Pokemon which was just leaked, which is awesome. But obviously Nintendo are not feeling that way inclined, to say the least. And yeah, they're striking people down with ban hammers everywhere, so let's face it, I am not going to show any footage. I'm just commenting and telling you how Pokemon has affected everybody in the world, including the Citra emulator. So this now brings me on to the front end news. And first up, we got Hyperspin. Now, Hyperspin, you all know my standpoint. I love the thing. It's got a little golden glow that glistens in my heart on a daily basis. The thing is that it's overcomplicated, it's problematic, it's bug-ridden, it's prehistoric, but it looks beautiful, and nobody can take that ever away from them. A lot of the other front ends are catching up with it, if not overtaking it, depending on what kind of fence you sit in terms of the way things look, the way things act, and setting them up, all that kind of good stuff. But that's for another video. What I'm talking about here is what Hyperspin have been up to, and they've just updated their website. I know it's not exactly groundbreaking stuff, but it's a fine addition. Let's face it, they're now bringing themselves into the modern era. Hopefully this is probably the first step of the introduction to the updates which have been promised for some time. And well, in addition to that, they've also updated the Hypersync program, and apparently they're just about to unleash the Hyperbase, which is a souped up version of the Hyperspin stuff going on. There's a lot of rumors and discussions going on in the background, but as of yet, this is all that's come to fruition. Elsewhere in the front-end community then, we got Launchbox, an old favourite of mine. And to be honest, these guys are pretty much surpassing Hyperspin to the kind of level where a former artist and theme maker over at Hyperspin, James Baker, has now decided to hang up his hat over at Hyperspin and move over to the Launchbox scene. Now, I believe that James Baker has now been took on full time, and that's awesome because that means that he's now a professional theme maker working for the Launchbox team. Now, he was revolutionary in the fact that he brought actual video-based themes instead of just animating them with the front end itself. That means that you got a lot more scope to do all kinds of crazy artifacts, add all kinds of features, and to be honest, his themes speak for themselves. They're pretty much of a professional quality, and it seems that Launchbox kind of recognised that and decided to, well, see if he wanted to set sail on their ship, and he did indeed. And to be honest, I think it's an awesome amalgamation of two, I don't know, leading figures in the scene at the moment. An awesome guy who's kind of breaking down boundaries in terms of ideas, and a front end which is doing the exact same thing. So it's a marriage made in heaven, and may you both be blessed with good times for many years to come. No, but to be honest, guys, it's awesome, and I'm looking forward to lots more themes coming along now that James Baker has took on a more professional job role in knocking these themes out. Well, that's about it for this week, guys. I know that I haven't covered the gaming news. That's because I've got a couple of dedicated videos covering something very much in particular that I want to share with you this week, so I'm going to keep that one under wraps. However, as always, if you've got any kind of intel, if you've got any ideas, if you want to bring or share anything with the scene, especially if you're a developer or working on something, or just if you're interested about something, put it in the comments down below. Drop me a line in my email. Do absolutely anything. I'm always open-eared and listening for you guys, because this is what the scene is all about, sharing the good times. And it's not me that brings you this, it's everybody out there. I'm just a person who tries to share this knowledge. It's you guys that do all the hard work. So thank you very much, as always, for doing what you do, guys. But it's been a pleasure as always bringing this to you guys. Please like, please subscribe, please do everything in the world that people normally do when Nintendo's swinging ban hammers like no one's business at Pokemon people. But most of all, you have a good day. Laters!